Live. All right, everyone, welcome to another edition of Live at Lunch. I'm so excited to be with you again today and bring just another incredible strategic partner of ours to the forum and just to be able for you to know more. I mean, our goal in our Live at Lunch as you run your business and as you think about doing better in the world and in the community and making an impact is how can I bring in some of the partners and people that we know that can help you think about business from a different perspective and from a perspective of making impact for today, for tomorrow, and for eternity. So joining us today is Doug Nix, the founder and chairman of Stillwater Capital Corporation. They are a leading M&A investment bank for mid-market businesses. Founded in 2002, the team of 19 professional staff is highly regarded for its integrity and ethics. Stillwater specializes in advising clients in the transportation and logistics, distribution, industrials, and manufacturing industries. Doug is one of North America's most experienced and trusted mid-market M&A advisors. He has extensive experience selling North American businesses to global buyers and in advising clients on growth through strategic acquisitions. Combining clear thinking, deep experience, and a sense of humor, he has successfully negotiated over 100 transactions. Doug has been married to his beautiful wife, Nancy, this says 41 years. Doug, you said 40 earlier. With 3 children, 10 grandchildren, is active in community causes. So, Doug, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Eric. It's a delight to be here. The problem with those bios is every year the numbers have to change, right? So, it's over 40 years. Yeah, Nancy. She'll say it's been a lot long. It feels like it's a lot longer than that, but it's yeah, we've been married 40 years.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic, Doug. I'm going to kind of turn the floor over to you. I'd love for you to just kind of tell my audience more about Stillwater and just kind of the work that you're doing to partner with business owners. I know that we sit in a time, and most people don't realize this, over the next 25 years, 68 trillion is going to change hands as businesses move from one generation to another, as assets move from one generation to another. A lot of those are being held in private business. So there's a lot of people out there who need to be thinking about this.
Yeah, well, it's a delight to be here. Thanks for the invite, Eric. I founded Stillwater in 2002. The reason, look, there's other people who have investment banking firms, but when I was looking at the market, and the market that we serve are typically businesses with an enterprise value 15 million to 200 million when we're selling them, and much bigger when we're helping our clients buy. But when I was looking at that market, I was struck by how underserved that market actually was. And by underserved, I mean, just think of a McKinsey, the strategy consulting house. There's no likelihood that any McKinsey partner is ever going to call up a person with a $50 million revenue business and say, can I spend some time with you, and can I bring the tools of that we've developed to your business? And it's not because that person with a $50 million business wouldn't benefit from it. Like, they might benefit more than some of the large companies that McKinsey serves, but they're just, the economics don't work. So when I started thinking about how do you build out an investment banking firm, there was two critical parts for that. The first part was it needed to fully integrate with my faith. Like, it's not, my business is over here and my faith is over there, and never the two shall meet. No. A lot of investment banking today seems around the idea of, how did my money get in your pocket? You know? Like, I'm not disparaging everybody, but it's easy to see greed at work in those. And so that was one. So it was important to me to have a meaningful faith component to what we're doing in the business. But then secondly is, how do you bring the insight and the skills and the wisdom of a McKinsey, say, that type of strategy thinking, into the mid-market where there's such a need for it, but there's a vacuum for it. So I didn't want, when I was founding I didn't want it to be just one of those firms that, throw mud up in the wall and see what sticks. I want it to be something different and something special where people go, man, those guys get it, right? They understand my business really well. They build out, they can bring real value to my business. they can engage with me at levels that nobody else engages with me at. They can talk business strategy. They can bring insights into what we do that I've never thought of before. And I can have those intelligent discussions that I'm lonely to have. Right? You must bump into that sometimes with people. And then, we started off slowly. It was just myself, my wife, and one other guy in 1,800 square feet. And we started just from scratch, and as I was building Stillwater out, it was, I got to say, it was I was a bit naive on some of the stuff. Like I thought, you build a better mousetrap and they'll come. Well, they didn't come, right? It's because people are busy and for whatever reason. So the first few years were very demanding, like for me. And I ended up just whatever deals I could get are the deals that I did. And we don't do that anymore because we have certain client profiles that we take. But it was really good for me because what I learned is I learned how to do M&A. Like I learned how to negotiate. I learned how to present, how to package, how to analyze. And it allowed me to become a repository of in-depth expertise that is the difference between having read it in a book and having done it. Right? So that was the great part. And I look back and I don't apologize for that. My background is I'm a CPA.
Okay.
And I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers in Bermuda for a couple of years, New York City for 3 years, and then in Toronto for a few more years. And that was all after I'd qualified. So, I have a fairly decent pedigree as far as a background goes. And what, so our service offering kind of devolved into, flowed out of two great passions for me. So the first service offering, I won't spend a lot of time on this, is we help our clients buy good quality businesses. So we design and develop and execute acquisition strategies. And that's based on, I really love doing this because it draws on my strategy background, right? So you can figure out what's a good way to build a business out, right? So I love doing that. But it's based on, Simon Sinek's, the why. Yeah. So I have two whys. The first why is I believe that great businesses can be built based on great acquisition programs, right? And that might be a topic someday that we could talk about that. But then the other one, because of my background, I was never comfortable with people being taken advantage of when they sell stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I see that happening so often when people go to sell a business. They're taken advantage of, and they're taken advantage of because they just don't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
So my second why is I am over the top passionate that people who have built a business need to be treated extremely fairly when they go to sell the business. Right? So I'll just, you're familiar with Journey of Generosity?
I am very. Yep.
So my wife Nancy and I were at one a few years back, by a few years, within the last 4 years. And a couple was there. They're just telling us about how they'd sold their business, and they'd sold it for $5 million. They were just so pleased with their newfound wealth. It was a family business. They'd worked hard, and 4 young guys came along and paid them that. And so, I didn't say anything, but they did share this fact that from the time they got the business under letter of intent with these guys to the time it closed, the revenues had doubled. Okay. And in their words, their exact words, they couldn't close the deal fast enough. Right. Why? Because the price didn't change. Right.
Yeah.
So these are people who talk about stewardship and family legacy and all of that stuff. Well, it comes out 18 months after they sold. Those same guys sold the business to their competitor for $15 million.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. And I hear that, and I just got to tell you, like, my spirit just kind of groans to say, do you not realize that when you sell your business for less than what it's worth, here's what you have done. When, like, you can do it knowingly, but when you do it unknowingly, you have stolen from your family, right? You've stolen from your family. And how does that ever track with everything we know about stewardship? You know, and if part of your life is Christian faith, like, how does stewardship, is that a good steward?
Right. No,
not
at all.
But it's a predatory environment. There's lots of people looking for a bargain because there's this prevailing thinking is you make your money on the purchase. Like, you got to buy it well in order to make the money. And I'm telling you, like, we do lots of pro bono consulting just to help people think through that, where we're saying to them, there's a way to do this that doesn't leave money on the table.
Yes.
And so people go, oh, well, I want to do this thing over here. I go, so I want to sell it to the employees. I'll just give you an example. You've heard that. I want to sell the business to the employees, and I'm going to sell it for $20 million. I said, so this is a type of a discussion that we would have is, well, let's bring in other buyers. Or do you know how much the cost of that decision is for you? No. Well, let's bring in other buyers and see what they would pay for the business. Because what would be better for your people, just hypothetically? Let's say you could sell it for $40 million. And now you have 20 million more than you expected. Would your employees rather have that 20 million spread around them? Or would they rather have an ownership position in the business? Or would they rather sell it to a guy with the same culture as you? And I'm telling you, when you put it into that type of a perspective, people go, wow. And so, like, the next question is, how many of the people work with you because they have to work, right? Like, what's more important, selling it to a person with the same culture, or getting some more money in their pocket, right? And so those are the types of, like, people fall into that trap all the time. And another one is, so it's not just on valuation, but then on structure. Like, when people are talking about selling the business, a lot of the discussion is all around, here is the value of the business. It's $45 million. A critical, or even more critical component, is how does that $45 million get paid? Right? Is it all cash at closing? Is it $30 million at closing and a $15 million earnout? Like, what's the structure of the deal? And what we find is people seldom have that discussion. So if there's a contingent part of the consideration, meaning we're going to pay something in the future when something in the future happens. So it could be an earnout or whatever that might be. Well, how is that set up, right? And so you'll see in a lot of business transactions, the earnout is based around this concept of EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. And the problem that we don't do that. Wherever we're able to, we do not structure around EBITDA, because what happens is the earnouts are usually for a short period of time, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. But the new owner is investing for a long period of time. So let's say he doubles the sales staff, right?
Oh,
that's a deduction off of EBITDA.
Right.
But you don't get the pickup because that might not come for in year 3 or 4 or 5. Right.
Yep.
So there's areas like that where people, as they go into the selling of the business, that they're just caught unawares, right? They don't know. And their lawyers sometimes don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is the passion that comes out at Stillwater, is we want our clients to do the best they can do and make informed decisions. And what I've seen is a choice of one is not a choice, right? So what I mean by that is we run a process, a competitive sale process. And through the competitive sale process, what we're looking to do is we're looking to get multiple offers on the business from the absolute best buyers on the table at the same time with the same information, right?
Yep.
And what we're trying to do is give our clients this concept that we call no regret selling.
Mm-hmm.
So no regret selling to me is where 2 days, 2 months, 2 years, 2 decades after selling, our clients aren't going, oh, I wonder if there was somebody out there who would have paid more. Right? Why do we sell it to that guy and not that guy? Right. I just heard we were pitching on a deal just recently, and the person goes, well, are you going to go to multiple buyers? I go, yeah. Why? He said, well, a friend of his just sold, and the person that was responsible for running the process, I don't know the firm, but they didn't go to the top 2 buyers. So the top 2 buyers found out about the sale when it was announced, and they went back. Both of them went back to that seller and said, "Why didn't you tell us? Because it was a strategic. It would be strategically significant to us, and we would have paid more than what you sold it for."
Oh, wow.
You know, and so these are the things that people are living nonstop with regrets over. Why did I do that? Right.
Well, Doug, I want to visit something really quick, because this is something I found to be true, but I'd love for you, because you work in this space.
Yeah.
A lot of times I find that a lot of owners wait too long to start having a sales discussion, have a discussion about selling their business, so that the term that I've kind of put around is they sit in this moment of burnout. Like I'm so exhausted and so tired of running this thing. I just want to get it sold, that some of these things will happen to them. So what have you found around that idea, that if you can get started earlier really makes a difference?
Well, absolutely. There's a few things that buyers or sellers can do to properly prepare their business. Okay. And some of them are tax related. So for example, donor advised funds can take complex asset donations. So if you set it up in time, you can donate some of the shares of your company into a donor advised fund.
Yeah.
Right. And get magnificent tax treatment on the sale of your business. So that's one thing, but you can't do it if you wait too late in the game.
That's right.
And then there's other things where people, you go, and this is something I had to deal with in my own business, is when I started, the whole business was about me. If I wasn't there, there'd be no business. Right. And so, you know, people go, oh, call Doug because he can do this, or call Doug because he can do that. And I realized that there's another word for that, and that's called personal goodwill. Right. And personal goodwill is where the owner of the business is the business. Right. So one of the critical parts of what we've done at Stillwater is we've worked hard to transfer all of my personal goodwill into corporate goodwill. Right. Yep. So now people are dealing with Stillwater, not Doug Nix.
Yep.
Right. And now that means if I want to go away with my wife for 2 months, I can do that because the business is all structured so that it's not about me anymore. So so one of the critical parts of doing that is systematizing whatever you can do in the business, creating systems and organization structures that allows to handle all of that routine stuff without you. Right. Expanding the relationships. And this is sometimes where it gets a little scary for business owners. I've got this key relationship and that key relationship because that's my security. I can hold on to those and nobody can take them. But I'm telling you, if that's the case, then nobody can buy them either. Right. So there's things like that people need to go through. And what it does, it shows a professionalized business to the buyer, and it de-risks the transaction for the buyer.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of purchase price adjustments come out of this concept of risk allocation. Okay, so and what I mean by risk allocation is if a buyer sees something risky could happen in the future, who's going to take the risk of it not happening or of it happening? And so it's risk allocation between the buyer and the seller. And the more that buyer sees a risk in transfer relationships, the more the seller is going to be responsible if it doesn't happen, right? So the more time you have, the more you're able to build out a business that's not dependent on you, that's professionalized, and de-risks the transaction for the buyer. So there's a bunch of others. Oh, sorry.
Well, that makes total sense. But I think that this would be a great transition because some people, I mean, I always tell business owners the biggest challenge that you've got is you need to be thinking about your exit right after you open the business. And a lot of business owners can't go there because it's like, because you never know when your time is up, But I think you talked about this, and I'd love to kind of leverage this side of the conversation. Sometimes the best way to prepare your business for a sale is through buying and creating. You said, a great business built on acquisition. So let's kind of shift that conversation to, depending on where you are in your business cycle, it may be that rather than thinking about selling, you need to be thinking about acquiring a few businesses before you sell. So talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I believe that it's not always for the faint of heart to buy a business, but we have one of our key underlying philosophies is business owners should never bet the farm on a single acquisition. Okay, so you need to build up organizational experience, but it's hard to greenfield stuff, right? Like if you want to open up in another city or another state, how do you do that in a way that makes sense? Right?
Yep.
So there's costs associated with greenfielding and timelines that we have been able to help our clients expand nationally without or through a reasonable acquisition program where they buy just for example, in the area of distribution. If you need representation in Indiana, and because you don't have it, then you buy something in Indiana. If you need something then up in Boston, then you buy something in Boston, right? And you develop the organizational expertise of being able to buy and integrate well into those geographies. And now it helps because you get the bump on the sales. And quite often on selling businesses, there is a reward for higher earnings. And what I mean by that is, if you want to just think generically in terms of EBITDA multiples, there is a reward with higher multiples for higher levels of earnings. Like a business that has $1 million of EBITDA has a different multiple. I'm speaking generally, a different multiple than one that has 15 million of EBITDA.
Yeah.
So there's this arbitrage opportunity to you buy many smaller businesses and you roll them up, and you're buying them at the $1 million, say, or 2 million.
Sure.
But the company, as you're doing it, is getting to that 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 million of EBITDA. And you get a multiple, a leverage on the multiple on that. So I think it's an awesome idea for people to do it. Okay. Now, the first one's always the hardest, right? So when we're advising on acquisition strategies with people who haven't done it before, we will often suggest do a very small one to start. Right? So you get used to what the terms and conditions on the agreements are, how you bring your accounting system over to their place, how you deal with whatever you have to deal with, employees, moving people, or the 1099 W-2, how do you integrate benefit programs, all of that stuff. So that's what we're doing. We're suggesting that if they're not really sophisticated, so they get 1 or 2 or 3 under their belt, and now they go, yeah, we can do this. We understand how to do it.
Is there a point in having a conversation with a business owner where it's like you would be better off acquiring versus selling? I mean, is that how do you help a business owner determine that as they're having a conversation with you?
I'll just relate. If it's a man, we'll usually say, hey, let's have a chat with your wife. Are you ready for John to stay home? And if the answer is no, then he's better off buying than selling. No, in all seriousness, you need to look at the business in a wholesome manner to say, is there anything lacking in the business that a buyer would benefit if the business had. So, for example, you might have a plant that's not running at capacity, right?
Yep.
And so maybe you got a plant that's doing 60%, and the strategy might well be to say, okay, what can we buy that we could put into the plant and take that capacity utilization from 60 to 85 or 90%, right? Because then what happens is the profit, the return on that is incredibly high, because the fixed costs are already covered. So it's really almost a contribution margin drops to the bottom line. Geographic coverage, it's the same thing, you know. For example, in distribution, if you move your level from 5 million a year on purchases from this vendor to 15 million a year, your economics change. You get a better margin on it. So let's find a competitor that we can buy that would supplement our purchases. So we go through and look at all those different components of the business and say, where are the holes in the business, right? So that's one part. So there's the business needs, but we look at the 3 windows that need to be open to sell a business. Okay, so the first window is the company ready to be sold? Okay, so some of them need some work, right? And I'll just give you an example. Sometimes those businesses, they have not been disciplined on working capital, right?
Yep.
And working capital is something that where you can increase your net proceeds if you can decrease over a period of time working capital in the business. Right? So you can put in some places where you can decrease working capital. Others have made a big investment in a plant or in people that hasn't yet paid off, right? So we go through and we look at all of that stuff and say, is the time right?
Yep.
But assuming the company is ready to sell, the second one, are the shareholders ready to sell? Right. And it was a bit tongue in cheek about talk to the spouse, but are the shareholders ready to sell? And what I've seen is as people get older, as people push into their mid 70s, say, they find it a lot harder to sell their business. And the reason I find that is because for many of them, they haven't found anything else in life to do.
There you go. Yep.
So I've seen with people like that, it's quite often not a decision about buying or selling. It's a question about living and dying.
Yeah.
They're afraid that if they sell their business, their significance is gone. They'll have nothing to do. In 6 months, they'll be the center of a flower display, right? And you go, so we try, when we're talking to people on that, we engage them on that discussion about, if you sell, what do you do, right?
Yeah.
And, Mitch Anthony talks about just because you've left your business doesn't mean you've retired. You move to doing something different. And he very pointedly says, and golf is not the answer. Because golf is a merciless taskmaster, you know, and you don't get better as you get older.
Right.
So trying to help people open their minds up to think about something different.
Yep.
Are they at a point where they sometimes it's their health that requires them to sell, right? And so we kind of walk through those discussions with the people to say, are they really ready to sell? And, but on the flip side, okay, let me just finish this part off. Then the third window is the market ready to buy. Okay.
Yep.
And people are in today's market. People are going, well, could you sell my business? And the answer is, there are several $1 trillion of funds available to buy good quality businesses. So good quality businesses are being sold all the time. We've done 7 sales in the last few months. We have 3 or 4 under letter of intent
Mhm.
that just in the last couple of months went under letter of intent with quality buyers. So I'm saying this is throughout in Canada and in the US. So we're seeing it without regard to geography. They're all good quality businesses. So yes, they are saleable. Due diligence looks a little bit more intrusive now because people in this marketplace, people are not giving you as much of the benefit of the doubt as what they used to. But those businesses are still saleable. It's the marginal businesses that are more difficult to sell.
Mm.
You know, and you might have heard that saying, you know, when the tide goes out, you soon find out who's not wearing a bathing suit.
Yeah.
But so those are the three windows that we're looking at. Is the company ready? Are the shareholders ready? Is the market ready?
Mm.
And here's the other part of it is sometimes you're not certain. You know, you're not certain is the market, but the shareholders are ready. So in those circumstances, we say, okay, let's. Our recommendation is to go to market anyway, because one thing at my stage of life, I realized the clock seems to move faster as you get older.
Yep.
Right. And, you know, people have, one of the coolest experiences I've had was sitting with business owners who have 30 years of building their business, you know, and that's 30 years of Sunday or Saturday morning sitting at the table talking to their spouse about this customer did that employee did that. Will we have enough for that? Like those discussions.
Yeah.
And they've never allowed themselves the luxury of thinking about what it might be like if they could sell their business.
Mm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then so we come and we go, well, you know, we believe that here would be a reasonable expectation for your business. And then all of a sudden you see that little crack in the wall where people go, really? We could sell and we could get something like that. And you go, yeah, we think you could, right? And we've been right every time. Like we've got massive increases for our clients when we run through a sale process.
Yeah.
And just seeing them kind of opening up to the idea of what there could be a hope and a future for them and their family after all this delayed gratification and the sacrifices they've made.
Yes.
Right. Which to me, I find those are the moments in life you just go, wow, you know, and it's really neat because we get lots and lots of emails from past clients. Like one guy just recently said, hey, Doug, I can't believe it's been 10 years since you sold our business. I just want to say thank you. I have traveled the world several times and done this, and I couldn't have done that if you hadn't done what you did. Or another guy goes, hey, I just want to say thanks for what you did for me and my family. You know, it was extraordinary. And we thank you often, and we're really thankful for what you guys did. And so this is kind of the joy of that fulfilled second passion, right?
Well, and what I love about what you do is, you know, at its heart is unlocking generational abundance.
Yeah.
Because for most families, that's where it's going to occur. You spend 30, 40 years building a business and to actually help them unlock that value. But the other thing too, that I truly appreciate that I don't know that my audience knows, but I'm just going to say this right now, having worked in this industry long enough, the difference in the way that Stillwater is doing this versus the way that I'm watching other members of the industry do this is revolutionary and powerful. And it aligns with a lot of the things that I talk about a lot of times is there can be alignment in profit and people. Those things can be done well together. And a lot of things that I run into, as Doug said, like, you know, I don't know if manipulation is the right word. I like to call it unconscious manipulation, is that it's the way that the industry has always done it. So I don't know that somebody's out there consciously trying to manipulate someone, but because it's the way that the industry has always done it, it is manipulative.
Yeah.
And so you've got to consciously to choose to do it a different way. And the other thing too, Doug, I'm going to toot your horn just a little bit more. I want to kind of summarize up for our audience as we kind of get close to the end here is the wisdom of someone to come in alongside you and say, hey, it may not be time to sell. It may be time to buy, and help you think about how to maximize the value of your business. I've not met anyone else in this industry who's bringing that kind of wisdom to the table. But why? Why does that matter? Because it comes back to that idea that this is not only about you being treated fairly, but this is about creating generational abundance. Doug and his team are all about this rippling through today, tomorrow, and eternity, much like we are, and we're passionate about. And so, if you're in that place of any part of kind of considering where you are on the journey, I'm going to encourage you to reach out to Stillwater and reach out to Doug, because this is our preferred partner in this area. So,
well, I appreciate that. So let me just, so we do have some stuff that if people are interested, we have a couple articles. One is how to sell well. And another one that we found has really been good is beware of the EBITDA multiple trap. Okay. So I'm my address is DNIX at SWMAA, Stillwater Mergers and Acquisitions, SWMAA.com. If you just send me a note, I'll send them off to you. It would be absolute joy. Could I just leave with this one thought? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So to me, faith is an integral part of what we do here. So we're doing this out of a deep compassion for people. So speaking from a deep compassion for people, I'll just tell you what we have done at Stillwater. Okay. My children were part of that journey of building Stillwater, right? Along the way, they made the sacrifices. Right? Like when I wasn't there, they made the sacrifice.
Right.
When we didn't have enough money to do this, they made the sacrifice. So what we have done along the way is we said, even though my children are not shareholders, they are beneficiaries of the day-to-day stuff in Stillwater. They're beneficiaries of an exit at some point in Stillwater because they were the investors all along the way. Right. And I think when we start, for me, it was freeing to think of my children have a stake in the benefits of the business, whether they work in there or not, because they had a stake in the sacrifices that were made to build the business out. Right. And they did that graciously. You know, when their friends were doing stuff, my kids weren't complaining. So one of the little things that we did when they were young, this is kind of cool. We had something called the family bonus pool, right? So when good things happened at work, what we'd do is we'd take the kids out. They were, 8, 9, 10, 15. And we'd go out for a nice supper, the five of us, and we'd cut checks to them. And like it's maybe $500, maybe it's $1,000. And it was part of that establishing that idea that mom and dad are generous with the kids, not crazy, not stupid generous, but generous with the kids. And this is part of the family bonus pool because they're walking through this with us. And it had just a really cool impact on my kids and on the closest of us as a family, right? Their willingness to make the sacrifices, but their joy at seeing a return on our intentions.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Doug, what you're doing is so unique and so special, and I'm glad we got a chance to really kind of feature that today on Live at Lunch. Give the website and your email again, just to make sure everyone knows where to get in touch with you and know more about Stillwater. Yeah,
so the company operates as Stillwater Mergers and Acquisitions Advisors. It's SWMAA.com. That's our website. And I'm DNIX at SWMAA.com.
Yeah, and so most companies, you're not going to get the email of the president, CEO, and head. So
maybe I shouldn't have done that. Anyway, it's
take your time. I mean, everybody has been blessed. But Doug, thank you again so much. This has been such a blessing to just know more and share with the audience. So thank you.
Yeah. So let me just one last here. If anybody has an unsolicited offer on their business, contact me, and what I'll do is we'll review your offer for free to give you the benefit of 100 transactions.
Yeah.
To say, here's some things that we think you might want to consider. We do that as a courtesy. And if anybody in your audience wants that, we would be delighted just because of that compassion for doing it well. Anyway.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Doug, it's been a pleasure. Everyone, it has been a great lunch together. I hope that you have a fantastic day. And as we head into the Thanksgiving holiday, I hope that it is blessed. God bless you, everyone. And we will be with you again next month. Just real quick so that you know, next month, December, joining us is Josiah Novak with The True Transformation. And this is my health and fitness coach. For those of you that don't know, in the last 2 years, I've lost 50 pounds. I'm down 30 pounds this year, and all of it is because of the programs that Josiah has put together. And I'm excited to have Josiah on at Live at Lunch and share some of his wisdom and his insights into fitness. I will tell you, when I started working with him, it completely unlocked something brand new for me in a space that I'm just going to tell you, for my entire life, I was 100 pounds overweight as a kid. It was stuff that I never thought was possible. And so you want to be with us for December's Live at Lunch, when Josiah Novak will be here. So thank you again, everyone. Have a blessed day, and we will be with you soon.
Thank you.